All right, here we go. Start of year number 2 with these Ottawa Senators. After a disappointing year 1 where we failed to make the playoffs, not for a lack of skill on our team, for sure, but it was due to a lot of long and unfortunate losing streaks. So hopefully with the talent that we acquired over the offseason, we'll be able to, avoid having that issue again. Before we move on, we have a couple of notable Hall of Fame inductions. Shea Weber, Connor McDavid, of course, and then Thomas Chabot and Jesper Wallstedt all inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. And Connor McDavid, I believe he is second all time. Yep, second all time. He has passed Jaromir Jagr, or well, he did pass Jaromir Jagr as he actually retired in 2036. So that was quite a long time for him not to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame. But hey, he's there now. And as we see, he didn't even come close to Gretzky's records. Anyway, we have the preseason starting up momentarily here, so I'm going to go over the lines real quick. First line, we have Jansa, Rogers, and Ronshin. Second line is Kuzniakov, Ardern, and Zaganyuk. Third line is Knoll, Wieland, and Boudreau. Fourth line is Merrifield, Marple, and Werner. On defense, you have Seidak and Westerlund, Hankin and Altonen, and then Kiviharju and Cerrone. In goal, of course, is Manning and Forster. And scratched currently are Coates, Barron, and Marc-Antoine Giroux. All right, so we're at the end of the preseason now, and unfortunately, Konstantin Ronshin, one of our top scorers from last season, is down with an injury. Start things out with a fractured wrist for 1 to 2 months. That's going to hurt to start out the season. Yeah, look at this. Our team is regressing. We need to win fast. We need to win this year or next. There's no doubt about it. Because with how fast our team is regressing, yeah, we absolutely need to win this year. Okay, so after one game in the regular season, Colby Zaganyuk already has 4 points. 3 points away from tying Alfredson's record, 4 points away from breaking it. All right, so a month in, we are 4-5-1, not ideal. Now, luckily, we're not in a bad position in the standings just yet. We're still in a playoff spot, but it is early, so the standings are bound to be all over the place at this point in the season, but yeah, not a great start. And unfortunately, who hasn't had a great start himself is Cody Forster. 815 save percentage in 2 games played. Luckily, Alan Manning has started out hot. 929 save percentage in 9 games played. On defense, Hankin with 5 points, 4 points for Kiviharju, Seidak with 3. I really need more out of Seidak offensively. He is, or should be anyway, our best offensive defenseman, but for whatever reason, he just is not stimulating like it. Altonen with 2 points, and then Coates, Cerrone, and Westerlund with 0. Westerlund with 0, really. He's supposed to be pretty good offensively as well. I don't know what's going on with these guys, but they're certainly not simulating like I expected them to. Because before we got here, the season before we got here, Westerlund had 58 points, and I believe Seidak had 59, right? Yeah. So I'm not sure what's going on with them, but we do need to figure that out. And at forward, you have Wieland with 6 points, 5 for Ardern, Zaganyuk, Boudreau, and Jansa. So we're getting some depth scoring, but not a whole lot else otherwise. Giroux with 4, Rogers with 4, Kuzniakov with 3, Werner, Knoll, and Merrifield with 2, Marple with 1, Barron with nothing in 5 games. How are grades looking? Barron, not good. Defensive grades are okay on the back end. Like I said, I would like to see more offensively, though, out of guys like Seidak and Westerlund. Yeah, we really cannot score goals. 2.4. How can we not score goals, man? This team was built for offense, and we for some reason are dull. Very, very dull. Let's see goals against. So we're 16th for goals against, middle of the pack. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not anything that's going to help us into the playoffs, you know? Face-offs, we're still in the top 10 as we were last season, 52.8, so nothing's really changed there. Power play, we are sitting 21st with a 17.6, and the penalty kill is actually 6th in the league with an 87%. The power play obviously could be better, but what we really need to be better is 5-on-5 scoring, because that is way down there, 2.4. I'm not sure why we're not scoring, because like I said, this team was built for offense, or at least I thought, but that is obviously not what's happening. Honestly, if it weren't for Alan Manning, we would be probably winless right now. I just have this feeling that he is carrying the majority of our wins on his back with that 929 save percentage. Because I don't see any other proof that we would be a good team otherwise. We're, for the most part, most of our guys are minuses. We don't have a single point per game player, and Wieland is the closest with 6 in 10 games. So like I said, while our league standing may not be the worst right now, it's one of those things where it's just waiting to completely collapse. All right, so we're on November 7th now, and we're 4-8-1. This is starting to get out of control. I am not about to let this season get away from us, and we're still at a point where if we start winning, we can get back on track for the playoffs. But this team is spiraling, and it is spiraling fast. So honestly, I think Laverne, you gotta go, dude. Between last season and the numerous losing streaks that we went on, and now this season with the very poor start, I can't justify keeping him around any longer. And like I said, I'm not about to let this season get away from us because we can still get back on track. It's just if we did go another month, like if we went to the end of November with Laverne on as our head coach and we still had the kind of record that we do now, that would be the point where I say, okay, let's just start the rebuild early. And I don't want that to happen. with this team should not be as bad as it is. With the roster that we have on paper, this team should be much, much better. It really should be. Between the goaltending that we've been getting with Manning, the amount of capable offensive defensemen that we have, and we acquired a couple of capable defensive defensemen as well over the offseason. And then with a deep center core with Ardern, Werner, Rogers, Wheeland, Marple, and then just in general, a lot of depth. There's no reason this team should be struggling the way it is. So that is why for the time being, I will be the head coach, at least until we determine what the trajectory of this team is. Like if it's determined that this team is definitely going into a rebuild this year, then I should not be the head coach because I don't have the coaching development ratings needed to develop young prospects. So if we do go that way, then I'll go out to the staff free agency and find a new head coach who will be good at developing young players. But if we do start winning, then I'll continue to be the head coach. All right, we are now on November 27th, 2042. And what just happened, we have a new all-time leading point scorer for the Ottawa Senators. So that is, of course, none other than Colby Saganiuk. He has passed Daniel Alfredsson on the all-time leading points list for the Ottawa Senators. The record-breaking 1,109th point came in a 4-2 win at Tampa on November 26, 2042. So it just happened. It was at 3:08 of the first period off a goal by Ardern from Coates and Saganiuk. So there you go. And congratulations to him. And hopefully he could put up a few more here during our campaign for the Stanley Cup. So there you go. There is Saganiuk. What a career he has had. No 100-point seasons. He was almost there twice. But just overall a real solid player for this team for a long time. And he definitely deserves to play out the rest of his career here for sure. And speaking of good news, ever since firing our former head coach Laverne, we are 6-3, I believe. We fired him on the 7th. So that means our first game without him was a loss against San Jose, but then a win against Vegas, a win against Toronto, a win against Florida, win against the Islanders, a loss against Carolina, a loss against Chicago, but then a win against Columbus, and a win against Tampa. So at the moment, I'm pleased with the direction that we're trending, but of course, we're not out of the woods yet. We're still 10-11-1. We have a lot to make up for that horrible start that we had, but we're trending in the right direction. So for right now, I'll be staying on as the coach, and it doesn't look like, at least not for right now, we're going to be starting the rebuild just yet because we, like I said, are trending in the right direction. So as long as that's the case, we'll keep this roster together. And of course, we'll try to make the playoffs. So with that being said, I think we're going to go up to maybe mid-December and see where we are after maybe the game against Carolina. All right, since our last check-in, we've been shaky. We had a win against Carolina, a loss against Seattle, a win against Dallas, a win against Chicago, loss against Buffalo, loss against Nashville, loss against Winnipeg, and then a win against Carolina. So we obviously haven't got any streaks like we did last year, but we've been going back and forth, and that's not really what we need right now to continue being in a playoff spot. I mean, we're somehow in third right now. I guess our division is just weak at the moment, but if we continue to just go back and forth like that, we're once again not giving ourselves a good chance. I'm not giving up on this team just yet, but it's getting close to the time where we're going to have to make a decision on what we're doing as far as a rebuild goes. Now, a brief look at the points. Ardern is leading with 33 points in 30 games, so that 4.5-star talent coming through in the clutch. Looks like he's on pace for a career year, as his career high is 62 in one season. Kuzniakov, the captain, with 25 points, 25 for Rogers, 24 for Giroux, 17 for Zaganiuk in 23 games played, 14 for Zydok, Wieland, and Jansa, Boudreau with 12, Kiviharyu with 11, 10 for Werner and Hankin, 9 for Cerrone and Westerland, Marple, Knoll, and Merrifield all with 7, 6 for Altonen, 5 for Barron and Coates, Ronchin with 0, but he's only played 2 games because he spent a lot of the first part of the season injured. Actually, the majority of the first part of the season injured because he got injured in preseason, I believe. And then in goal, you have Manning with a 918 save percentage in 28 games played. So it's mostly been Manning playing. And then Forrester with 4 games played and a 902. And the last game that Forrester played in was November 14th, so over a month ago. Yeah, coach, well, I guess that's me now. But Manning is really heavily relied upon, so he's going to need to stay very consistent throughout the rest of the season. I hope he can, because last season that wasn't really the case. And it's understandable, you know, he was only a rookie back then, and he's still only 23, so he's still young, but he does, as the main guy, he needs to learn how to be consistent, so hopefully he can do that over the course of this season. And now team stats, goals for per game, we're up there with a 3.23, so we're scoring a lot more now than we did with Mr. Laverne, who I believe we had a 2.4 goals for per game or something when he was still on board. Goals against per game were in the bottom 10 of the league. Not what I like to see, but at least we're scoring now, so it's something, but we do still have to work on the defense. And we were good defensively last year, so that's definitely appears to be a 180 there. Still good at face-offs, that's good. Power play, still middle of the pack, 18.5. And the penalty kill, 10th in the league with an 83.8. So this time it's the defense that needs to be a little bit better, but it is good to see that we're finally scoring. So I guess now we'll advance up to January 1st and see where we are. All right, so January 1st, we are 17, 19, and 1. Overall, we've been losing more than we've been winning, unfortunately. As seen by our record, we haven't made any progress really there. In our division, we have unfortunately dipped to 7th, although we're only 3 points away from 4th from Detroit. So is there still a possibility we could make the playoffs? Yeah, absolutely. But only if we start winning on a more consistent basis. Ardern's up there in 6th in the league with 42 points, 7th in goals with 20, but we just unfortunately have not been good enough. Alan Manning continues to have a solid season, 916 save percentage in 34 games played. See, we're in a tricky situation right now of being at the end of our window of contention. So as a result of that, I kind of want to make trades for players to improve our roster, but at the same time, I don't want to because I know that a rebuild's on the horizon. So it's a tricky situation, especially with how talented our roster should be. You know, guys like Ardern, over a point per game player. Zydok has a better point per game average so far this year than he did last year. He's already at 22 points this year. We're not even halfway through, and he had 28 total last year. And as we just saw, Manning has a respectable save percentage, so it just feels like we should be doing much better than we are. And of course, the beginning of the season didn't help that, but the lack of consistency has also been hurting us a fairly great deal. So I think I'm going to need to make a decision soon on what we're doing at the deadline, because we could still realistically catch the wild card. We're only 4 points back, but the team hasn't exactly given me much confidence in their consistency to be able to pull that off. I'm going to look at the trade block real quick and just fly through and see if any teams are willing to unload one of their young players for whatever reason, because I think that'd be the only kind of trade I would want to make right now, like a player who's going to be sticking through some kind of rebuild that we have to go through soon, because it's going to happen. A rebuild is inevitable for this team. It just is. We have way too many old players and not enough good prospects. It's just a matter of when do we start it, you know? Is it now? Is it this offseason, or is it next offseason? I'm not sure yet, but a rebuild is soon to come for this team for sure. Yeah, as expected, there's not much on the trade block that I'm a fan of here, so I guess we'll go 2 more weeks. We'll see what our position is in regards to the wild card, but overall, I'm not liking our chances. All right, so January 15th, we are 20, 22, and 2. We're only 2 points back of the wild card. But keep in mind, the Rangers and the Flyers, who are currently in the wild card, each have several games in hand. And then as for our division, the Lightning are 6 points ahead, but they also have 3 games in hand, as do the Bruins. Every time we win, like here against Columbus, we just end up shooting ourselves in the foot. A loss against Detroit, loss against Tampa, loss against Washington. We've had a couple of wins here, but if this pattern continues, it's not looking good. I don't like it. For whatever reason, we're just having a lot of trouble putting it all together and actually winning games on a regular basis. So, like I said, I don't want to go making trades for players who aren't going to be long-term solutions, because we're in that situation of, well, we need to get better, but we also need to mind the future. We're still scoring for the most part. You got Ardern with 47 points, 39 for Rogers, 36 for Kuzniakov, 27 for Giroux, 26 for Sidok, 24 for Jansa, 23 for Werner. Whelan with 22, so Whelan could be doing better, as we know what he's capable of doing. Manning's down to a 912 save percentage, so his play is tanked a little bit since we last checked. Oof. Yeah, that's rough. A 10-0 loss to Philly. Are you kidding me? That right there is grounds enough to consider going into a rebuild. Oh, this is not good. I don't like this. Yeah, see what I mean? Every time we get a win, we just follow it up with a loss. We're not getting anywhere like this. All right, so February 1st, we're closer to a divisional spot than we are to the wild card. We're 5 points back of the wild card, but we're only 4 points back of Boston, who are in the third divisional spot. Manning has a 913 save percentage, so he's been consistent, at least in his play, and that's what I'm really asking out of him this season. We could definitely use a better backup than Forrester, because Forrester's barely played. Like, he has 8 games played and an 886 save percentage. We're still scoring, it appears, or at least our first line is. Ardern with 58 points. Then you got 46 for Rogers, 45 for Kuzniakov, 31 for Giroux. Jansen with 28, Whelan with 27, 27 for Sidok. So Sidok has definitely cooled off over the past 20 games or so. I don't know. I'm not sure what to make of it, because we've been inconsistent basically at every turn this season. And I don't want to give up on this season yet, because we're within reach of the playoffs. But at the same time, we're not in a position where we can be just freely making trades to improve our team, you know? So it's just one of those situations where we just have to just see what happens, I suppose. Which I hate to do in a season like this, but it's just the reality of our situation with our minimal prospect pool and then our very, very old team. Okay, so it's February 12th, about 12 days from the trade deadline. The wild card is slipping away. The wild card is very unlikely at this point. We are 9 points away from the Rangers and they have 4 games in hand. If we're making the playoffs, it has to be a divisional spot. We have to catch Boston. If Boston starts to pull away within the next week or so, then we're definitely beginning the rebuild at the trade deadline. So take note of that. They're 6 points ahead of us right now. If they're more than 6 points ahead of us, like I said, by the trade deadline, then I'm going to assume that we're not making the playoffs. All right, so we're the day before the trade deadline, February 23rd. We're 28, 27, and 3, putting us at 59 points. And unfortunately, Boston sits 9 points ahead of us. At this point, I think it's safe to assume we're not making the playoffs. Because if we take a look at the wild card's 10 points ahead. It would take a lot. It would take a lot to make the playoffs at this point. So I think we'll start the rebuild. You know, just 2 consecutive years of no playoffs, it looks like, at this point. And the fact that we are an extremely old team, like over half our roster is 30 or over. And then the fact that we have maybe 1 or 2, possibly 3 NHL prospects, but they're all forwards. The rest of our prospects are just bleh. And then Pietila is going to take a while to get to the NHL as well. He's only 18. He's a half-star talent. He only has a 2.5-star potential, so he's not even that impressive. So even once he does make it, he'll probably be, you know, a bottom 6 pair defenseman, maybe a top 4 at best. It's looking like the rebuild's going to start here at the trade deadline, boys. I hate to say it, but I think that is the case. Luckily, the one constant this season has been Alan Manning, who has maintained a 914 save percentage over 54 games played. So I commend him for doing what I asked of him and being very consistent throughout the majority of the games that he played. I think we can safely keep Alan Manning on as our goaltender throughout the rebuild and beyond. I think he has earned the right to at least that. As for everyone else, I don't know. I think Hankin can go. Westerlin can probably go. Altonen, Cerrone, Kiviharu, really everyone besides Sidok. I would like to keep Sidok on board as sort of a transitional player, just, you know, help the young guys that we're hopefully going to be getting on our team soon enough to get better. But everybody else, they can go to free agency or get traded, because the rebuild needs to start. It does. For whatever reason, we have trouble putting it all together and consistently getting wins. And it's a shame, because this team's talented. It really is. Like, as we see the ability of some of these players, like we have several players who are 3.5-star talent or above, then a few 3-star talents, a lot of 2.5-star talents, and no one below 2-star. And 2-star players are depth, you know? So on paper, we have the talent. It's just, for whatever reason, we struggle putting it together. Forward-wise, we have to keep Saganiak. He deserves to play out the rest of his career here. I mean, at the same time, we could give him a chance at it with a cup contender, you know? But at this point, he has 2 Stanley Cups to his name already. I think if it was me personally, I would want to play out the rest of my career with the team that I've been with for my entire career. So I think we'll keep Colby Saganiak on board just for that. But the rest of y'all, Noel, Boudreau, Ronchin, definitely out of here. As much as it pains me to trade Boudreau, but you know, reality is he's not the player that he was with Rimouski. Whelan can probably be traded. Ardern, I would like to hold on to as one of those transitional players. Rogers, I'm not sure on yet. Kuzniakov can probably be traded. Giroux, I think I could trade. Jansa, probably going to trade. There's going to be a lot of trades. That much is for certain. So I think with that, I'll end it here. And the next one, we start the rebuild.